Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Woollentwine Fiber Studio knitting podcast. My name is Jule, and I'm the dyer and maker behind Woollentwine Fiber Studio, which is a small creative space located here in northern Germany, where I play with natural dyes and natural yarns. Today is another preview episode of a new yarn collection that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks. And since this one is quite a big collection, I'm going to kind of try to resist rambling a little bit. But let me still give you a little intro section because we haven't had an update in April, which is quite unusual in our case. And the reason why that happened is that we're currently renovating a new studio space that we've just recently found. And I'm incredibly happy that we found it, and it will be all worth it. But I was very eager to get this space to exactly work in a way that I wanted to work, and so quite a few things were necessary to kind of install things that will make my work a lot easier. And yeah, over the past couple of weeks, not only did we do a lot of like cosmetic renovation stuff, such as painting with natural clay paints and all that, but we also had quite some handymen over to install some special features that would make the dyeing, the everyday dyeing, a little bit easier. And yeah, we're close to the finish line. It will take, I think, one more appointment with an electrician, and then we should be done with at least the basic structure of the whole space, and then we should be able to gradually move in. I had hoped to move in the beginning of May, but yeah, things didn't really go as planned, and there were a couple of issues that weren't, that we didn't plan in before. And so, yeah, I'm still in the old studio, as you can see, and preparing this update at the same time as coordinating all the studio renovations was a bit of a challenge. So I decided to skip the April shop update as we usually do it, and rather take the time to properly prepare for a May update. And in this one, we had a little bit more time to get some more shades dyed, and the result of this is an impressive rainbow of colors that's just next to me right now. So I guess I should just stop rambling and start with the preview video. But just a quick recap of what we're going to do in this update. All bases that we'll have available, we are restocking a couple of classics, and we dyed a couple of a lot of shades, and everything that we've dyed in the past couple of weeks will be available on May 12th at 8 p.m. CET. That's when the collection's going to drop. And in this collection, we tried to, because a couple of these bases have not been around for quite a while, we tried to dye a pretty wide variety of colorways, just so you can choose from everything. And yeah, it will all launch next Friday, and yeah, without further ado, let me tell you what bases we'll have available. So in this update, we will restock our classic base, that's Corriedale sock, which is our natural non-superwash sock yarn, and we didn't have this base around for quite a while, so I'm really happy to bring it back actually, and I really hope you're in the mood for sock knitting and maybe some lightweight projects now that spring's around the corner. Or well, for us it's still around the corner. It hasn't really fully come to higher temperatures yet, but you know, I think sock knitting is always very appropriate all around the year, but especially in the warmer months where you might not feel like having a heavy garment on your lap to knit on. So yeah, lots of sock yarn will be in this update. Then we'll also have our classic bases BFL Masham DK and 4-ply. We didn't have the 4-ply version for quite a while either, and so I'm really happy to bring that back. And as I usually do it, I'm going to show you the colorways that will be available on BFL Masham on one base, but it will be available on both, so you can choose between the DK and the 4-ply weight. Then we're also going to restock our cruelty-free and ethically sourced silk mohair based cloud in multiple colors, and we also have a new batch of our unspun yarn Thrive that just arrived here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really excited about this one. But more on that later. I'm also going to record a full video on this base where I introduce you a bit further and also give you a little idea of patterns that might work with that new batch. But so far that's it, and now I'm going to start showing you the colorways. So let me show you the colorways that we'll have available on our BFL Masham bases. As said, these will be available both on the DK and the 4-ply version, and I'm just going to show them to you once, and they will be available on both. The DK version is 240 meters per 100 grams, and the 4-ply is 400 meters per 100 grams. And both are a blend of 75% BFL and 25% mid-brown Masham. And they are pretty classic bases for us. We almost restock them in every update, with some exceptions of course, but yeah, all colorways really look super beautiful on this base because it's not white, but rather has this kind of grayish brownish undertone that makes naturally dyed colorways really muted, and yeah, just gives a lot of depth to them, which I personally really like. So let me start showing you the shades that we'll have. I'm going to start out with a couple of classics that are more like restocks, and then I'm starting with like the limited or let's say new colorways. So this one is our colorway Eucalyptus, and it is something between a grey and a light greenish shade, which I really like. I think it's very spring appropriate and very fresh shade. Next up we'll have a more, let's say, autumnal shade, but we didn't have this one for quite a while and I wanted to bring it back. So this one is Golden Hour, and it's a beautiful rich mustardy yellow that I also think is really pretty for summer actually, because why not wear something mustardy? It's quite a fun color still, I think. Maybe a little bit more muted, but that's what I usually like. So this is Golden Hour. Then we'll have our almost classic by now Oxalis, and this is a deep berry red-brown that I absolutely adore. I think it's one of my favorite colorways that we've ever dyed. So this is Oxalis. And then we'll bring back a really old classic that actually we weren't able to dye for quite a while because the dye stuff that's used in this came with a new batch, and the new harvest of the plant was just completely different. And so we had to tweak the recipe to dye the colorway again. I mean, it's a bit different still, but I think we've come quite close. So this one is Mountain Rose, and it's like a coolish undertoned pink. It appears a bit more purple, I feel, in this lighting, but I hope you can get an idea that it's more of a pink, I would say. And then I think this was the last of the classics. Then we'll have another pink, and this one is a new one. We used to, or we created this one for our heritage base that was launching in the last update, I guess. And this is a very muted, soft, grayish pink that's called Pink Clay. And on the BFL Masham DK it has even more of a deep, not deep, but grayish undertone. So yeah. And next to Mutton Rose, this is how they are looking next to each other. So Pink Clay is a bit more warm and a bit more, let's say, lighter even, and Mutton Rose is a bit more saturated and coolish in undertone, which I hope is a bit visible in the camera. So these are Pink Clay and Mutton Rose. And then last but not least, we have a few indigo dyed skeins again. And just a quick info on indigo dyed yarns. These are not having any kind of colorways as they are not repeatable, because with how the process works, it's really not, like, it's not easy to repeat naturally dyed colorways anyways, but with indigo it's exceptionally difficult. So with these shades, they are not really repeatable. So like, not at all, let's say it that way, because it just depends on the temperature, the time of dipping the yarn into the indigo vat and all these things. So it's kind of a, you know, special thing each time. And with these ones, I think I talked about indigo and crocking quite a couple of times on this channel, but I still want to mention it briefly. With how indigo dyeing works, there might still be residual pigment around the fibers that might come off when pressure is applied during knitting. So it's actually normal whenever you are knitting with an indigo dyed yarn that there's a little bit of blue coming off on your finger. This is called crocking, and it's nothing bad. You can just wash it off and it's gonna fade after a while, so it's not like staying the same strength forever. It's just, you know, after a few washes it should go away. And you can also speed this process up by adding a tiny bit of vinegar to your rinse water when, for example, when you, not rinse water, your soaking water when you're blocking your knits. But all this info is also going to be on a little indigo card that I add to every skein that has been dyed with indigo, just so you get an idea. But yeah, just so you're aware of it, it might happen. We're paying very close attention to rinsing these skeins very well, but it still can happen that there is a little bit of residue on your fingers when you apply pressure to them. So just so you're not panicky or anything, you can just wash it off with soap. There's nothing wrong. It's all natural and there's nothing to, you know, worry about. So let me show you the indigo dyed skeins. We have 3 this time. And I had a feeling last time when we had the indigo dyed heritage skeins that you were really after slightly more saturated shades. So this is the lightest one, and this is called Indigo 1. And it's a beautiful light blue that still has some, you know, it lets the indigo, not the indigo, the naturally grey base shine through quite a bit, so it has almost like a heathered effect, which I think is really pretty. So this is Indigo 1. Then we'll have Indigo 2, which is slightly darker than Indigo 1, quite a bit more saturated. And last but not least, Indigo 3, which is even darker than Indigo 2. There's not a huge difference between the two, but Indigo 3 definitely is the darkest of the 3. And just so you can get an idea, I'm going to hold them up next to each other. So we have Indigo 1, Indigo 2 in the middle, and then Indigo 3 here. So you can see there is a difference, but Indigo 2 and 3 are quite similar. I think they're really beautiful. They look like little blue jewels. I don't know. It's just lovely. They look really fresh and spring-like, I would also say. So I guess that's everything we'll have on BFM Masham for this time. Yes. So next up, I'm going to show you the colorways that we'll have available on Corriedale sock. Alright, so on Corriedale sock, we've dyed a pretty wide variety of shades. And I'm going to start out with the indigo dyed skeins as well. Because, yeah, you know, I was showing you the indigo dyed ones on the BFM Masham, so why not show you the ones on Corriedale sock? Just as a little reminder, Corriedale sock is 400 meters per 100 grams, 100% Corriedale fiber, and it's non-superwash and plastic free, but spun to a slightly higher twist, so it's durable enough for socks. So yeah, it's our natural sock yarn, and we didn't have any of this for quite a while, so I'm happy to bring it back. First color is Indigo 1. This is the lightest of the indigo shades again, and it's a beautiful fresh sea foamy kind of light blue. Then we'll have Indigo 2, which is a bit more saturated again, slightly more saturated than Indigo 1. And then we'll have Indigo 3, and this again is a bit darker than Indigo 2. I think it's really pretty. Let me show them side by side again, just so you can get an idea of. In this case, you can see the difference between the Indigo 2 and Indigo 3 quite a bit better, just because the yarn base is not grey. The grey can sometimes mute the colors in a way that they look kind of similar because the undertone is there already. But here you can see the difference between Indigo 2 and 3 quite a bit better. So yeah, these are the 3 indigo shades, and we have some more indigo dyed yarns, 3 more colorways actually, and these are even harder to replicate than the indigo dyed skeins anyways. So these are complete one-of-a-kind ones. I gave them names still because they were just, you know, kind of inspiring to me. So I decided to still give them names, even though they are not really repeatable, I don't know. But you cannot repeat them, but I just really love them, and some things just came to my head, so I decided to give them names anyways. But they're all 3 one-of-a-kinds. So just so you know, the first shade is Moss, and it's a almost glowing green that I think is incredibly beautiful. I think it has so much depth in it, and you can even see the golden shades popping through. I think it's a bit surreal to think about the fact that this has been dyed with plants. But yeah, it has been. So, and actually with kitchen waste, because the yellow that was used and then covered up, or not covered up, but dyed over with indigo was from onion skins. And so it's all very sustainable, I would say. So this is Moss. Then we'll have another beautiful shade. It's called Jade. And it's like a, yeah, like a jade green. I think this is really beautiful. Let me show you another of the blue skeins next to it, so you can actually see how green it is. So these are the natural indigo. This is Indigo 1, and this is the Jade colorway. You can see it's actually quite a bit more greenish, or turquoise if you want to say. So yeah. And last but not least, we have Bluebell, which is like a blue with a slight more purplish, pinkish undertone. Again, for reference, this is the natural indigo without any undertone, but this has a little bit of a purple undertone, and I think it's really pretty. So this is Bluebell. All right, so we're done with all the indigo one-of-a-kinds, and I think they're just, you know, they're really special because you never really know what happens, even though, like with experience, I kind of know what shades overdyed with indigo give what, but still sometimes it's such an incredible process to do this, especially if you do like multiple dips to change the color slightly, add more indigo. Yeah, it's just lovely. So these have a special place in my heart. And as said, they are completely one of a kind. So if you look for one of these colors, I won't be able to make these again. So now's the time. So far about the indigo. Next up, we'll have a couple more, you know, neutral colorways that I think are also really awesome to pair with other shades. So in case you're into colorwork socks, for example, I think these would be lovely. So the first one is called Ballerina, and this is like a beautiful, I hope the light is not blowing it out too much because it's actually a little bit more saturated in real life, I would say. But it's like a beautiful warm pink. I don't know if it's easier to see if I hold it back here, but it's a little blown out by the light, but I hope it's still visible. Next up, we'll have a light, almost apricot kind of beige. That's called White Peach. I think this is also very spring-like. I think this would also make a really beautiful shawl. I don't know what you think, but I can imagine this being a very beautiful spring-like shawl. And then we also brought back one of our neutral classics almost, and this one is Oat. And it's just a neutral, warm beige. Not too warm though, it's quite more in the neutral range, not necessarily super warm. And just so you have an idea of them next to each other, because I know these kind of light neutrals can be quite similar sometimes, I'll hold them up next to each other. So this is Ballerina, this is White Peach, and this one is Oat. And then we have one more neutral that's actually a new colorway that I really love, and this one is Dolphin. And this is a light, can you focus camera? This is like a light gray, but with a touch of green in it, if I would say so. I love this one very much. I think it's just a very beautiful neutral that goes with so many things. And just so you can get an idea, I'll also hold it next to the other neutrals, so you can see it's quite a bit more coolish in undertone. It's like a silvery, greeny kind of shade. Yeah, so enough of the light neutrals. Let's transition to the slightly more saturated shades. So this one is also kind of a neutral. It's Walnut, and this one has been requested quite a bit over the last couple of months, so I decided to bring it back on Corriedale sock. It's just a warm, medium brown with like a golden warm sheen, I guess. Then we also have another brown. I think it debuted on our Heritage base last month, or in the March collection. But this one is Deer, and it's like a reddish brown that I really like. I think this would also make a beautiful shawl, which by the way totally works because Corriedale sock is not only suitable for socks, you can also work it into a shawl or something, especially because it's very, you know, I don't want to talk about softness because you know how I like to talk about softness or not like it because it's individual, and I don't want to say it's soft and then it's not soft for you, but this one has very little hair sticking out of it, so it's you know, just very, not sleek, but it has a very even surface, I guess. So it's very easy to wear around the neck, I'm sure. So these are walnut and deer. And then we have a little bit more of a saturated shade again, and I think this is screaming spring to me, and this one is buttercup. It's a warm golden yellow with some orangey flecks in it that I think are really beautiful. Has a lot of depth again. So yeah, this is buttercup. And then the last kind of, not really the last because we have 3 more, but the last of the solid shades is this one, and this is called Grenadine. And I think it's a bit more bright in the camera than it is in real life, but that's always what happens with the reddish shades I show, I feel. But yeah, I think it's also very spring-like. Yeah, maybe like this, I don't know. But it's a nice, very fresh spring-like shade, I would say. So, I guess we're done with the solids, and for this time, for this shop update, I also decided to do 3 multicolored colorways on Corriedale sock, because I know you always love them and I do them way too, like, I don't do them often enough, I feel. But sometimes, you know, the creation of these, it takes a while, and it's, you know, I have to be at a certain headspace to come up with these multicolored shades, and sometimes I'm just not, and I don't want to force it, you know. But yeah, let me just stop rambling and show them to you. So we have the first one that's actually quite muted and a bit more soft. And this one is called Prisma, because it really reminds me of like a prismatic, when, you know, when a light is broken up into its full spectrum of lights. And actually what gave the main inspiration of this when I was thinking of the colorway names was that I immediately had to think of the Pink Floyd album, The Dark Side of the Moon. You know, with the cover there's this triangle, and there's the light stream coming and then breaking up into its components. So yeah, kind of, you know, I don't know if I told you before, but I have a background in music and culture management. So yeah, I sometimes have, you know, musical inspiration things whenever I have my colorway names. So let me know if that's actually something you'd like me to do at some point, like a collection inspired by albums or songs or so. I don't know if that's too niche, but you know, I would love to do it. So yeah, this is Prisma, and I think it's even a little bit more saturated in real life. It has a bit more of like a unicorn cotton candy vibe somehow. So it has pink and blue and purple, and yeah, it's just really pretty. Next up we have another fun multicolor that's called Flora, and this is a beautiful, very spring-like shade again, with loads of pink and purpley speckles on a creamy orangey white, no, not orange, but like a peachy yellow undertone, which I think is really pretty. So this is Flora. And last but not least, we have this one. This is called Sunflower, and it is, I don't know if the light shows it well, but it has a very light pink shade all over, and then these golden orangey bits that remind me of a sunflower head, hence the name. So yeah, this is Sunflower. Are you focusing? And yes, I think they are all really spring-like shades, and they were really fun to dye, and I'm happy to bring some multicolors back, because I feel like multicolored socks are just a really fun thing to do in spring. Even I do enjoy a little multicolored sock in the springtime, so maybe I should keep a skein for myself and knit myself a pair, but let's be honest, I'm not managing at the moment. Until the whole studio thing is done and I have a bit more knitting time, I guess I'll, you know, I'll be a good girl and keep those skeins for yourself. Yeah, but I guess these are all our Corriedale sock colorways, and now I will show you everything that will be available on Cloud Silk Mohair. So on our Cloud Silk Mohair base, we did dye quite a couple of shades again. And just so you know, this is a fully cruelty-free and sustainably sourced silk mohair base that we got custom spun. And there is a whole video on the backstory of this yarn that I'm going to link here in case you're curious, because it was a long process to create this. So in case you're curious, you can watch that video. And without further ado, let me show you the shades. I'm going to start out with just the undyed white. And there's a reason that we're restocking this, and I'm going to show you that later. But yeah, this is just the undyed white. I should maybe mention this yarn is 420 meters per 50 grams. So it's like a lace weight, pretty standard silk mohair base, and it's you know, I have this in 50 gram skeins, just so you know, so you can get you know, if you get one skein of BFL Masham fall ply with a 400 meters and then one skein of Cloud Silk Mohair, that will be, you know, the same yardage, even though this has only 50 grams because it's a lace weight. And you can find all the info on my website again. I have updated all the info on my base section, and Cloud is there as well, so you can find all the fiber content and the yardage again on my website in the base section. I'm going to link it here now so you can check it out. And then you should also find the prices for all bases. So, because I always know these questions are coming up, prices are on the base page for most of the bases. Just whenever I have something limited, it doesn't really make sense to list that on my permanent base page. So whenever there's something limited, it's not on there, but all these bases that I've just shown you are on the base page, so you should find all the info there. But yeah, the undyed white. Next up, we have Ballerina. That is a light pink again, just as on the Corriedale sock. Let me show you. This is, you know, it's a different base, but it's the same colorway. So this is Ballerina. Then we'll have another pink that is Mountain Rose. So this is the corresponding shade to our Mountain Rose on the BFL Masham DK. Although I think it will also go perfectly with pink clay, because it's not, you know, it's just a light pink. I think it would go with both. Actually, let me see if I can just hold them up, because I guess that's the easiest way for you to see. So this is pink clay. In the middle we have the Mountain Rose colorway, and then the Mountain Rose colorway on the BFL Masham DK. So you can see it would go well with either of them. And then one last in the kind of pinkish neutral range, and this one is called Shell, and it's a bit more on the purpley beige side compared to the other pinks that we just showed. And this is really beautiful, I think. Has a lot of depth as well. So, oh no, there's one more in the neutral pinkish kind of range, and I should maybe hold them all up together so you can see the differences between them. But this was actually really funny because sometimes, even though I have a lot of experience with natural dyeing by now, sometimes I feel like I have not tamed this craft yet, because this just came out unexpectedly and I have no clue what caused this colorway particularly. I don't know if it's even visible on camera, but this colorway I decided to name Opal, and it's like a pink, very neutral pink, but it has green parts. I don't know if you can see that here, but it's mainly visible in the mohair part, not so much in the silk. But you know, it's like it shifts from pink to a slightly greenish shade, and I think it's just so cool. I guess this is kind of a one of a kind. I'm not sure if I can recreate it. I'm still investigating what exactly caused the green to happen. But yeah, I might not be able to do this again, so not sure yet. But let me show you all the pinks next to each other, just so you have an idea. So this one is the Opal colorway. Next up we have Shell. Then we have Ballerina, and this one is Mountain Rose. So here you have the pink, all the pinks. Next up we have a couple of, you know, corresponding shades with some of the other yarns again. One of them being Oxalis, that we dyed to potentially be knitted with Oxalis on BFL Masham. I think this is so beautiful on the mohair with the halo and the glow of the silk in it. It's just so beautiful. So yeah, this is Oxalis. Then we also dyed the grenadine colorway on the silk mohair. Wow, this looks really bright on camera. I hope it's not, if I edit it like later on, I hope it's not that bright as it looks in the viewfinder right now. But what's really funny about this, or not only funny but also really glorious, is, let me see if you can see, the whole skein appears in the grenadine colorway, but the silk thread has picked up some yellow bits. And it's like a gold that sheens through the reddish corally shade. Do you see that? I think it's just so cool. It looks like almost like fire. I don't know. It's really cool. If it would be more orangey red, then I think it would just pretty much look like a fire. But these are two next to each other again, so you could knit them together. So this is the grenadine. Next up we have another one-of-a-kind colorway on the Cloud Silk Mohair, and this one is also just gonna be called one-of-a-kind because it has been dyed with onion skins as well. And just because I'm sure I'm not gonna be able to recreate it, it's gonna be one-of-a-kind. And it's like a pure gold. It's so beautiful, I think. I think this would be so pretty with walnut on the Corriedale sock. I think it would add even more warmth and a little bit of glow. Be really beautiful, I think. So yes, this one is the one-of-a-kind that was dyed with onion skins. Next up we have one more shade that was really requested, and this one is actually a tricky one because somehow the dye baths or the lots, they really vary from one to another. So I know it has been requested quite a bit, but please keep in mind that the next lot that I might have of this one might be completely different from this one. So, you know, just make sure that you maybe plan what to knit with it, because it might be tricky to purchase an additional skein even if I'm able to restock it, because yeah, there are always quite some differences between the dye lots. But this is Brown Bear, and it's like a dark saturated brown, but with a little bit of warmth still. And last but not least, we have two colorways on the Cloud Silk Mohair base that we actually, it was a bit of an experiment, and it was not easy to do, but I'm really happy with how they turned out because I tried to dye them according to the new batch of our Unspun Yarn Thrive that we'll have, and those are only made from natural sheepy colors, and so I tried to recreate the shades of Thrive. And so maybe I can do a little transition of this part to the little intro to Thrive now, but let me show you the shades first. So these are the two corresponding shades that will go with the this kind of looks a bit purple in the camera. It's not, it's like a dark neutral brown. And this one. And just like the Thrive shades, they will have the same names, but I don't want to give them away without showing them on the Unspun first. So let me, you know, I'm going to show them side by side in a bit, but let me now tell you a little bit of our new batch of Thrive. So we got a new batch of Thrive made, and this, for those of you who are new here, is our unspun yarn that we get custom made by a small mill here in Germany, and also the sheep's fleeces that are going into this are all sourced here in Germany. So it's a fully locally produced unspun yarn, and I'm always super happy about this. So I'm going to do a full-on intro because I know there are always a couple of questions around unspun yarn. So there will be a separate video that I'm going to link here now, where I talk you through all the yarn specs, the fiber blend, show you some swatches, and have a little pattern suggestion list even, just so you can maybe have a little bit of inspiration of what to do with it. But without further ado, let me show you the new batch. So this is it. We have a light, warm, beautiful beige, and we have a saturated super dark brown. And the two colorways are named Malt and Barley. It's kind of a little bit inspired by my obsession for sourdough baking because I absolutely love to bake bread, and I also love to keep it very traditional in a way. And so I like to work with kind of, you know, old grain varieties and not like the new very popular ones. I like to use older types of grains, and such as barley, but I also like to, you know, experiment with things that were available at times when some recipes came up. And for example, when just regular commercial sugar wasn't really a thing in baking, like malt was used a lot, and malt most of the time, because it was the cheapest way to do it, was derived from barley. So that's kind of how I came up with these names. I don't know if that's even interesting, but you know, I just love to work with these kind of materials, and I love to add barley malt to my breads sometimes because it gives flavor and color. And you know, we here in the north, we do like to eat some darker breads, such as rye bread and, you know, darker seeded loaves. So I kind of felt the connection because I know nowadays the old malt is often just exchanged for something that gives color but not necessarily taste, and I don't really like that. I like the traditional way. And so I just felt it's really fitting for my baking obsession to call these barley and malt. So yeah, that's how they're called, and that's also how the silk mohair, okay, I cannot hold this up, but the silk mohair is called. So this one is barley, and it's, you know, it's not an exact match, but I think it would go very well together. And this is malt, to go with the malt on the new Thrive batch. So, and then I also said that I'm going to restock a bit of the undyed cloud. That's because if you wanted a lighter shade, even to lighten up barley even more. You could also use it with, this is a bad angle, you could use it with undyed mohair. And I have a swatch that I'm also going to show in the full intro video, where I can show you how that looks knitted up. But yeah, we tried to dye these two mohair shades with the two shades of Thrive, just so you can potentially think of knitting a project in this held together. So yes, so with this next launch of Thrive, some of you might be familiar with this because we used to do it in the past as well. In the spinning process, there always is a little bit of, you know, at the end of each colorway, there might be, you know, run-throughs that are not fully 100-gram plates of the yarn. And these I do get from my mill, and I usually use it for samples and all these things, but it's way too much for me to use up. And so we usually pack these together in little pre-packed sweater grab bags. That's how I kind of call them. So we pack them together into little 500 grams, or most of the time it's quite a bit over 500 grams. And then you can get them at a slightly discounted price, because you might not have like 5 plates in these bags, but rather, you know, 7 or 8, because they're not full 100-gram ones, but they are perfectly fine to use. And they're the same quality as the big ones, just not in the same weight. And so I decided to do these little mill end packs, because that's how they're called. They're just called mill ends because they are the end of the spinning process, kind of. And yeah, these will be pre-packed. I hope it's not too crinkly, but they will be available in these little brown bags that I always love to do, because it kind of feels like tying up some presents. I don't know. But we'll have a couple of these in the shop update as well, and you can get them as a slightly discounted price. Oh, I don't have it on top of my head, but you can save a couple of euros purchasing these instead of 500 grams in the 100-gram things. But they are also very limited, so if you're looking for these, please make sure to be on time for the update, as I always say, because we have only like 10 of these or so. It's not like a big amount that we have of these. So in case you're looking for a little sweater quantity pre-packed 500-gram bag, I'll have to ask you to be on time, because yeah, there are not too many. But you know, the other ones are there as well, and it's not, you know, there's not a huge difference. It's just that I want to make use of these mill ends as well and not waste them. So I guess that is it. As said, I'm going to also link you the whole intro video below. And I think even if you're familiar with Unspun yarn, it's always interesting to hear the backstory a little bit, and also to maybe see some of the patterns that I've curated in a little list, because I feel it's always nice to have a little inspiration sometimes. And I guess that's all. I'm going to start prepping for the update now, because it's, you know, by the time this goes up, it should be the weekend before update week, and this week is always kind of it always goes away, like, or it passes like a blur. It's always super fast, and so many things are happening at the same time. And yeah, I'm going to start preparing now. Just as a little reminder, the May collection with all these things that I've just showed you will go live on May 12th at 8 p.m. CET, as always in my own web shop. And I will link everything you will need to know below. And in case you have a question, please do not Instagram DM me or something. Please write me an email, because it can be messy at times right now, and I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to lose your question somewhere in a DM wherever space. So please just write me an email. That's hello@woollentwine.com. I'm also going to link my email below, and you can always email me if there's a question. But maybe consider to watch the info videos first before placing the question, because I usually try to cover as much information as I can in the whole video thingies that I'm doing here. So yeah, I'm trying to do my best and cover all the info. But of course, if there's something you are not sure about, feel free to email me. So yeah, I guess we're now done with this video. I hope you're having a great weekend and that spring is finally coming where you are. And yeah, wishing you a great day. Thank you. Bye.